Hello, everybody. I have tea now. Congratulations to me. I hope you guys have tea too. I hope you have something. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, evening, wherever you are. Hi, Ayatonic. Hey. Yeah, Aya. I'm gonna say Ayatonic, maybe. Hi. Welcome. It's so wonderful to see everybody. Hey, Ayatonic. See, I guessed right the first time. All right, let's get into it, yeah? I'm gonna go. Thank you, SurelySims, for your lo-fi donation. Bye. That was Lo-Fi Sim by SurelySims. Thank you so much. I'm gonna start us off by reading a little disclaimer I wrote. So here we go. First off, again, welcome. Hey, Bog. All right, just a heads up. Here, it's in my disclaimer, so I'll read it. Disclaimer. I do not claim to be the absolute authority on any of the things I'm going to share with you today. There are a million ways to approach every subject. This is just mine. Like everyone, I am a work in progress. I am constantly learning and improving, but I feel knowledgeable enough on these topics to share my process with you. I highly encourage everyone to seek out outside resources, as well as see how other creators accomplish the same task. Above all, I hope these streams and videos can help you find the fun in learning, failing, and innovating along the way. During the lesson today, I won't be responding to chat to keep the video as concise and streamlined as possible, but if you have any questions, you can submit them at any time by typing !Q followed by your question, and we'll go over them together at the end of the stream. And I have a little bot that will remind everyone about this periodically as we go. And please let me know if there are any issues with my audio, if everything sounds okay. And I'm sure Alex will not abuse the bot. Let's get it going, okay? So here we go. So let's talk about posing. To understand posing and making poses in The Sims 4, we have to think about how the human body moves. Something a lot of poses I see online don't, honestly, I kind of worry about if they do know how the human body moves. We all got one, hopefully. So what's important when you're starting off posing is having a clear idea of what you want to do going into it. A great resource is previously Senshi Stock, but now Jukepub Stock. They have their own website. They used to be on DeviantArt, and now they have their own website. Has an incredible amount of resources on everything, getting different angles of everything, just standing. I highly recommend this website because you can see you're getting a lot of different angles, and you can see the subtleties in the human body and figure out how it moves. So you don't have to be an anatomy expert or anything to make poses. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in anything to do anything, but but you can see there's a lot of reference here, and it's all completely free. Oh, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna pause notifications. But they shouldn't pop up anyway. But I was thinking for today we could do kind of a classic sort of artistic contrapposto pose, which is when you have like a hip cocked out to the side, very sassy, very classical, and a little bit harder than you'd think to do for The Sims 4. So yeah, have a clear idea, gather your reference. There's reference everywhere. But this is just a great resource, and I highly recommend this website. Take a look through it. She's got fantasy poses. She's got poses with props, everything. She's been doing it for years. Another thing about gathering resources, that honestly, the best thing you can do, act it out. Do it yourself. if you have someone with you, if you have a friend that can take pictures of you from different angles, even better. Because that way you're feeling the way your body moves when it poses. You're feeling your muscles move, the way your shoulder moves. How are your legs standing? How are your feet positioned? What's the most natural way for you to stand in this position? And that's honestly probably the best resource you can get, because you'll get exactly what you want. And you'll also feel how it feels to do that pose. So let's pop into Sims 4 Studio, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to start posing. So today we're going to start off with the default Sims 4 Studio rig, and later I want to talk about a rig that makes me really excited. It's new, and it's a great resource for everyone. It's free, completely free, made for The Sims. I want to go over it and teach you guys how to use it, because it is not as scary as it looks at first glance. So to make our first pose pack, we are going to come over into Sims 4 Studio, which you can download off of the Sims 4 Studio website. I am using the most recent up-to-date one. I will also be using up-to-date Blender. So I'm like Blender 3.4 or something. And we are going to start up at animation. And we're going to do a clip pack, and we'll just put this on our desktop so it's easy for us to get to. Stream test poses. Good, cool, clean. And I'm going to also move that over here so it's on the proper desktop while we're working on it. All right, cool. So when you open up a new stream, when you open up a new pose pack, a brand new, fresh, clean pose pack in The Sims 4, you will have the opportunity to give it a name. Very useful. I like to name mine like this because I am simple. Lots of people have different ways of naming their pose packs, different brackets and stuff. Order them differently in the pose player. But whatever works for you works for you. You could also give it a description, which helps people figure out if maybe it's got a kind of an esoteric name. It'll help people kind of figure out what it is, the meat and potatoes of the pack. So this is just our front page. We can't do very much here besides rename it. You can put an icon in for that will be the cover of it. It's great. Always, I highly recommend having clear and concise icons because they're so heckin' tiny. But we won't be going over that today. So for clips, we come over here, and this is where we would import and export our poses from. We can do this a couple ways. So we can do this by exporting a blank, just kind of an A pose rig. You can also grab EA clips from here. I plan on going over that later. But today we are just going to do an adult female. But if you click this drop down, you will see that there are lots of options. Even a horse. You want to pose a horse today? I don't. But you can. So today I'm just going to export our box standard adult female as a blend file. I will call this pose 1. Very creative, I know. And it's going to bring up, it's going to automatically open a little folder when it exports it. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead, straight up, open it in Blender. Remember to turn on my screencast keys so that you guys know when I'm clicking. There we go. Also, if you're joining late, there are closed captioning is available for this stream. If you hover over the stream on the right-hand side, there should be a button that allows you to have closed captioning, and hopefully that helps with accessibility. I haven't done it before. Please let me know if it works. So when you load into Blender, you are greeted with a little default A pose, not a T pose. T pose would be arms kind of at 90 degrees. This is what we call an A pose. So I'm just gonna start posing this gal, and I'll try and explain as much as I can. Closed captioning is working great. Awesome. Yes. So the first thing that bugs me when I open up something like this is it feels very cluttered. I don't need all of these windows. I am not going to be animating today. Maybe. But so I'm going to drop that down. I don't want to see it. I do not like working in perspective view because it gives a distorted kind of view. So I'm going to hit 5 on my numpad, and it's going to take us into orthographic, which is more of the way that it's a lot less distorted and probably closer to the way you'll see it in the game. So, and over here is our dope sheet, which is where we will select bones. But as you can see, there's nothing selected because we don't have anything selected. But oh no, even if we select everything, we don't have anything selected. There's nothing over here. What we need to do is lock rot our pose. So to do that, we hit I, and I always do location, rotation, and scale. The Sims 4 does not retain scale unless you're using Pancake's animation tools, which I haven't figured out how to set up yet. No more on that later until I figure it out. But I always hit this anyway because I'm, I don't know. You could just do location and rotation. But here you go. Here is all of the bones in the Sim's body. Well, wow, there's a lot of them, isn't it? We don't have to worry about that too much right now. So I'm just going to kind of make this a little bit smaller. And we're going to work on our little contrapposta pose. So I am, do as I say, not as I do. I am not looking at reference, but because I've made this pose a lot. But so I do want to go over a couple things. When you are creating a pose and you want to move a character in a scene, you don't want them to be perfectly on the origin point. Do not move your rig around in object mode. 1 second for tea. Yes, okay. So say you want your sim to be back a little bit further. You don't want to move your rig off of the origin in object mode. You can see we're in object mode because down here it says object mode. This will cause your pose to be distorted in game. It'll pull your sim in weird directions and overall mess you up. So you never want to move your rig in object mode off the origin. Instead, we're going to go into pose mode here, and we're going to grab the root. You can see we're grabbing the root because right up here it says root. So the root is kind of our base of our sim. So if we want to move them around the scene, this is what we're going to move them with. I'm fine keeping her on the origin, but that's just do that, okay? Okay. So when you're posing with the basic kind of out-of-the-box Sims 4 Studio rig, you always want to start kind of with like the spine and the legs, because when you start moving these, you'll see that if you spend a lot of time posing the hands very specifically, they're gonna kind of get lost when you start moving the spine. So I always start with the spine because it's going to give us kind of the most important part, and you can always click around and see what everything does. Let's talk about moving bones. So if you're new to Blender, there's a couple ways to do things. I have a video on navigating the space in Blender up on my channel. I can link that. It's just very basic, but also you could always just, you know, throw on the donut tutorial, and he talks pretty well about how to move it in the 3D viewport. But so when we're moving bones, we don't have to worry about scale. All we have to worry about is grabbing and rotating. So G for grab. And we can do a lot of nightmare stuff with this. But more importantly for doing sort of rig work is rotating. So you can see we're kind of rotating whichever direction we're looking at in the viewport. So it's always camera based unless you constrict it to a different axes. So we have 3 different axes in 3D. We have X, Y, and Z, or Z, if you're a little fancier than I am. So our Z will move them different directions than X. You don't even have to click out. You can just tap it. And you can see me tapping it over there in screencast keys, and they'll all do different things. If you want to kind of get crazy with it, if you hit R twice, you can do kind of this sort of like ball socket movement. It's real fun. It's good. But it's a little uncontrollable, so I try not to use it very much. So let's start posing our spine now that I know that. And you can watch my keys over here as I do it and see kind of what I'm moving. But since, oh, I'm also using the 3D, the orthographic views. Let me go over that real quick. They're my favorite. Orthographic views are amazing. So if you hit 1 on your numpad, you're gonna go into a front view. If you hit 3, you're going into a side view. If you hold down Control while you hit either of these numbers, you will do the opposite. So now I'm looking at the back. Now I'm looking at the other side. It looks a lot like the first side, but that's because it's symmetrical. If you hit 7, you can look top down. If you hold down Control and hit 7, we're looking at the feet. This is a good way to compartmentalize and hit less buttons when you're moving things. So you see I hit 3 to look at the side. I am rotating, but I'm not having to tap X, Y, or Z because I'm looking at the direction I want it to rotate. So I'm gonna try and do this while I talk, so I apologize if the pose doesn't come out good. I'm a fraud, I know. But I'm gonna try and give her that sort of classic contrapposta style of just kind of got one hip cocked out to the side, which is a little hard. You'll notice that my foot, this red line is our ground plane in The Sims, and you'll notice that my foot is having trouble reaching the ground, which means we need to come down with our root a little bit and give us a little bit of working room. And then that also means that this leg's gonna have to have a little bit, it has to either go somewhere else, maybe we move it back a little bit, or we bend that knee even. But since this is our leg that, let's see, contrapposta is also a hard one. So I'm gonna stand up and do this to figure out. So the hip that I have cocked out to the side is the one that I am standing on. It should be my center of gravity. So we're gonna go like this. I just had to stand up and do that because contrapposta is confusing. And it's just easy to do in the moment, quick and easy. Feel how your body moves. It's also important to remember that when you're posing someone, you want to keep the kind of center of gravity underneath the sim. So you can kind of see this, I'm gonna talk to you guys about IKing things in a minute. You can kind of see this foot's kind of out to the side. It's not really helping support the sim, so I might bring it in a little bit. It's a little funky. That's why looking at things from different directions is also very helpful. I'm just gonna bring it down like that. I may also pop her hips out a little bit more. But to do that, I kind of have to like possibly even like rotate the root. Just fun when you have all these hands here. And you can, by holding down shift, you can grab multiple bones at once and rotate them. So I kind of got a sort of spine situation going on now. Yeah, okay, cool. So, you know, not the most advanced thing in the world, but it is something. I like to, with the feet, I like to give them a little bit personality. I like to go into top-down view because I know I'm going to be rotating only on the ground plane. So I know the foot's not going to get really wonk. Ooh, too many buttons. I like to give them a bit of personality because it's very rare that you stand perfectly straight with your feet. And it's just something that helps with that. Let's see. Yeah, let's keep this simple and let's move on. All right, so posing the arms and the scapulae. The scapula are your shoulder bones. If you put your arms up at home like a weirdo like me, you can feel your shoulders moving with your hands and arms. Your shoulders support your arm movement, and the biggest mistake I see in posing a lot of the time for The Sims 4 is the lack of shoulder movement. I'll see a dance animation override, no shade, with the shoulders stay kind of perfectly flat while the Sims throw their arms up, and it's creepy. So we have 2 bones for this here. These are our scapulae, our clavicles. And you'll see they move the shoulders and they influence the shoulders. So I want to have her put a hand on her hip, and her little cocked out hip here. So I'm gonna start posing from there. Also, when you move your arms, you will notice your elbow. It's very hard for it to move. I know, I'm not supposed to be shady, I'm sorry. It's very hard for your elbow to move in more than one direction because of the type of joint it is. It's not, you have like ball joints and like, I'm sorry, anatomy people and my college professors, slot joint. I don't think a slot joint is a real joint, but if you move your elbow, you'll find that even though you can move it left to right, you're not actually moving from the elbow, you're moving from your shoulder, which is a ball joint. So that being said is a very long-winded reason why you only want to rotate. Also, there's 2 bones here. There's the weird elbow bone for fixing things, and then underneath it, if you click again, you'll see the lines come up. That is your actual elbow. So you only want to rotate the elbow on the Z axis, but you have to hit it twice. Whee! And then you'll get more of a natural elbow rotation. This is something you can cheat a little later, but it's good to try and kind of keep those rules in place. So I'm gonna try. Elbow bones are the eternal nemesis. I'm not supposed to be looking at chat, sorry. I'm going to try to get her to put her hand on her hip. I am going to use the scapula to help influence this. I want it to move back a little bit as well, like she threw her shoulder back. And if you're creating poses for other people in Sims that aren't you, you have to deal with different body rigs, and kind of everyone's Sims are a different size in accounting for that. But if you're just using your own Sims, we'll go over that later. But hand positioning is very important. There is a tutorial out there that talks about how the Sims team uses these slots on the rig to calculate arm positions for any size Sim. That's something I really want to learn one day, but I just haven't been able to sit down and do it properly. But this is a good time actually to talk about IKing and how, first, I don't want to lose this pose before I get into that. I don't lose this pose. So you see down here on our timeline, we have a little yellow diamond. There we go. Square on its side. And if we go off of that, oh my god, we lost all of our work. Or if you accidentally hit the space bar, that starts your timeline up. And then you'll be like, oh my god, I lost all my work. Just undo. You're okay. And then lock rod. So I'm gonna hit I again, and I'm gonna do my location rotation scale because I'm neurotic. Even though you don't need scale. So I'm just gonna save that so we don't lose all of our progress. Also, you know, saving the scene helps a lot. All right, so let's talk about IK. So IK is sort of a big help for things like this. It's basically going to talk to the bones and kind of do its best to simulate the feeling of movement and joints. So it's just a simple thing you can do, and I suggest doing it when you're closer to the end goal on the default rig, then because it can get a little bit out of hand and do some things you don't want it to do. But I just go in here, and I know there's like better settings you can do, but if you're doing it quick and dirty, what you want to do is select the hand bone. You can see it says hand here, and I'm gonna just go to this little tab here. It says bone constraints, drop down, inverse kinematics, and you'll get this little window here, and I just changed the chain link to 3. And so now you see when we move the hand, our elbow and shoulder is moving with us. Well, it's moving from the shoulder. This is just something that's, if you don't want to spend a million years kind of adjusting your hand position, and you already kind of got it close to where you want it, it's great for that. You can do the same thing with feet. You just grab the foot bone, and you inverse kinematics it, and you change the chain link to 3. And now you can kind of move it poorly. This is why, this is just a very basic kind of thing you can do with the default rig. So, just also good to know. Very important to know, actually. If you want to reset the rotation of a bone, Alt-R. If you want to reset the grab of a bone movement, Alt-G. I hadn't grabbed it because it does weird things when you grab it. It's okay, because now we have it Vyxated, so it does less weird things. But, so if you want to reset the rotation of a bone, it's Alt-R. Very important. Write that down. You're going to be doing that a lot. So I'm just going to try and kind of figure out what I want from this. Might move it out. Don't know if I want it very... Just adjusting. Sorry. And I'm basically checking to see that my feet are on that baseline. This is our ground plane in the Sims 4, this red line. All right, cool. So that's IK. It basically calculates kind of, or does its best. It kind of gives you, simulates the movement of a arm. So we can do it on this one too. You have to do it on everyone. You can have a base file you set up like this if this is a way you like to work. And just have them ready to go like this. But you can see it's a little unpredictable. I'm just gonna, there we go. I'm gonna look at it from different directions. Maybe I want this more forward, more back, probably more back. Another thing to think about when you're posing is silhouette. Like, picture your sim as kind of just like a black PNG on a white background. Like, just the shape of them. It's better poses will have nicer silhouettes, more interesting. So if you're finding maybe your sim is holding a prop and they're holding it in front of them, imagine if it was just one shape of color, if they were just one shape of color on like a white background. Would it be interesting to look at? And you can think about this from all different directions, because it is a 3D game and we are looking at things from all different directions. If I picked that up, it would be so funny.
Sorry, I farted.
Shut up! I'm cutting that out. I don't think anyone heard it. You just announced it. Anyway. Fingers. Let's talk about fingers, eh? Okay. Cool. Let's talk about individual pivot points. So, our transform pivot point down here is we have a couple options. So important ones for posing. Good, thank you. Important ones for posing are individual origins. So if I keep it as it was on, I believe it was on, oh geez, like median point or something. If I do that and I try to rotate fingers, you will notice that it rotates the whole thing. And that is slow and we hate that. So what we want to do is we want to change it to individual origins. So if I have all my finger bones here selected, now if I hit R, Z twice, you will see that, oh, it does this lovely little curve. We like that. So what I like to do is I like to use circle select, which is a way to select things. There's a couple ways to select things in Blender. You've got your box select, which is kind of just drawing a box. Very useful. Another option I like to use a lot is hitting C and using circle select. If you scroll your mouse wheel up and down, it makes the brush size bigger and smaller, and you can kind of paint what bones you want to grab. To get out of circle select, you hit right click. To deselect some bones, you use your middle mouse. So it's a little confusing because middle mouse is usually used to pivot around the scene, so it takes some getting used to. So what I like to do, if I want to do just kind of a relaxed hand, is I will select all of the finger bones. I will hit Z twice, and I will kind of just do that. And if I want to get fancy with it, maybe I'll start deselecting like some bones, and I'll do it again. So like maybe she's got the like, you know, Disney princess hand that we used to call it at the parks. You have the like kind of like, oh, my hand is so dainty. And you can also, I like to group fingers together like this, like because your fingers have a little bit of side to side movement, and they often like to be next to each other, be close to each other. So to avoid even spacing, which is never a good thing in art, I like to kind of group little fingers like that, but also just like, you know, do what feels good. So, and then I'll relax the thumb, hands. So then we have a nice kind of relaxed hand, and you can even go as far to just kind of bring it out a little bit. And there's our IK again. Loves this. Bring it out a little bit, just kind of make that silhouette a little nicer where we can. Like that. So I'm thinking from this, do I want to bring this down? So you'll see that when you start editing things around the spine, you'll go, oh god, I have to do that again, don't I? And you bring it out again. Yeah, that feels a little bit more natural. Or she felt a little more out of tension. So let's quickly also do this hand. So we're gonna doing hands on hips is a little bit hard. It's hard to get them to look natural sometimes. You can do kind of, I like to do the ball right, because we have a ball joint on our thumb. So I like to throw in that rotation sometimes. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it's just kind of, you know, looks sus. Sometimes it's just better to do this. You'll get to know it as you pose yourself. Yeah. I'm going to bring this hand out, feet down, rotate it like this. So as you get more comfortable at moving around the 3D space, you'll kind of get an idea for where you want things to be. Also, if you're using the default sim, like the Sims 4 Studio sim, keep in mind your sim will be wearing clothes when you make these poses. So think about what kind of like what clothes are there going to be. So it's always good to leave a little bit of a gap. But sometimes, I don't know, you leave too much of a gap. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to balance. And it definitely comes with trial and error that you get it. And you know, also when in doubt, if you're thinking hands and feet, the artist's nemesis, just kind of put your own hand on your hip. Notice how your fingers lay. They usually kind of tilt more down than you think. So I might even rotate it bring these down a little bit. Still dance, get someone to take a picture of you. It's nice to have primary reference, because you know exactly what you want, and sometimes that's hard to find on the internet. I might even bring that up a little bit more, like that. That's something. And I lock rot. Learn to make it second nature. Okay, let me sure I didn't miss anything. Tea. Okay. Posing the eyes, face, expressions. Expressions make the world go round. I see a lot of poses out there with wonderful gestures and scary default faces. So let's try and let's try and bring a little life. Maybe we could do like, you know, classic sort of eyebrow up. Oh, are you trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson? I don't know. I've never seen the movie. I just have a general knowledge of anything. Anything. Cold, dead stare. We love it. Also keep in mind that the posing a default sim is not really, the eyes are very different than the ones in game, because everyone has different sims, everyone has different sim eyes, and we're gonna go over this later, pulling your own sims, but there's gonna be a difference in game. I found that on the default sim you have to make it a little bit more the expression's a little bigger, so that, because otherwise the eyes will just be straight up closed in game. So I'm thinking of this expression, the most important thing is the eyebrows. So I'm going to start there, and eyebrows are easy enough. You can see the bones. This is when I go in and I start grabbing things. You can rotate things, and cannot recommend enough bringing your own sims for this, especially if it's just for you, for personal use. But when you are grabbing things, make sure to check that you're not moving anything places it shouldn't be, especially with like mouths and stuff. I find that I'll adjust like a mouth, like a smile, but then my sims, when they go in game, they have these huge gaps in their mouth. You can grab all three of these. Let's kind of bring it up. So I'm rotating and I'm moving. So I can't raise an eyebrow like that. I wish I could. But since this is pulling up, I'm going to have it's going to be pulling this side of the mouth more. And we also have these bones right here that are squinting. So if we were to move our eyebrow up, the rest of the face is going to come with it. So I'm going to move that up, and this is going to be kind of a little more squinted than that other eye. And I'm going to open the jaw a little bit. So back here, you can see our jawbone. And if I click on it, it says jaw, and this is a magical little bone that opens and closes the mouth. So you can do it in any direction, but I highly recommend hitting Z twice, because our jaws only move. I mean, they have a little bit of side to side movement, but most of the time you're going to be moving just kind of in one up and down direction. So I think I'm going to just open it just a little bit. I don't want her to be talking. I just want her to look kind of bemused. And it's good to check I call them the pockets of the mouth. Like your little cheeks. It's good to check that your pockets aren't exposed. And maybe I'll give her like a little bit of a lip quirk. All right, so that was the easy stuff. Am I allowed to swear on YouTube? Now the eyes, the windows, the soul. Oh, the eyes. On the default rig, the eyes are, all the bones are stacked on top of each other. It's horrifying. These are all your eye controls. So when we do the eyes, what you have to do is you have to search for the bones. So if you come over to our dope sheet, we can search for eye, and it just kind of narrows it down to our eyes. So if we grab our right eye and shift click our left eye, we now have them both selected. You want to move these both at the same time, unless you're going for kind of like a, you know, off-shot look, cross-eyed look. I don't know, maybe that's your thing. But now this is where the kind of ball joint rotation comes in really handy. So we're gonna hit R twice, and it's gonna give us that. You can notice they're not full spheres. Nightmares. Never run into more nightmares than when making poses. It's gonna let you kind of rotate them in their sockets. So it's very useful for that. So let's do, maybe she's looking off to the side. And maybe I want her to feel a little bit jovial, because we don't just smile with our mouths, we smile with our eyes, unless we're sociopaths. Then maybe that's what you want. But I'm gonna go search for lid, and I'm gonna grab the lower lid. I'm gonna Z. I don't know, I like saying Z more than Z. And I am going to bring the lids up like that, because our eyelids, they open and close kind of in one direction. It's very hard to open and close from side to side. So that kind of gives us a sort of shape there. I am going to grab the upper lid, and I'm going to make kind of more open, because I don't trust the default rig, and we can kind of see how that applies to my characters later. The Z key. Sorry, I'm not looking at chat. So this is our finished pose. We're going to lock raw one more time, and sometimes I do it a couple times because, you know, I'm neurotic. I want to take a look at it from all sides. Something that's helpful for this is there's this little button down here. It looks like two circles, like a little Venn diagram. And if you hover over it, it says show overlays. If we click that off, it's going to take away our background, our controls, our everything. That's okay, they're not really gone. Don't miss them too long. You can always bring them back by clicking the button. Also, alternatively, if you accidentally click the button, that's where they've gone. So this is a good way to use our numpad and just kind of get a look at our pose as it stands. As it stands, I don't really like this hand here, so I might come in and move it just kind of closer to the body. Feels maybe like I shouldn't have gone back so far. That's a little nicer. We can double check our, there we go. That looks good from the front. So that's a good thing to check. I always find stuff when I turn off the overlays, because all of the bones are confusing your eyes, and it's kind of hard to see the pose underneath. So I'll go ahead, I'll take another look. Holding down Control 1, looking at the back of the pose, looks pretty good, not seeing anything funky. Looking at the side of the pose, the arms are back pretty far. I'm looking at this kind of gesture of the body that I've made, and I'm thinking maybe that, I know we all have like gamer neck, where our necks go like really far forward, but I'm thinking since she's standing up so straight, I might pull that neck back a little bit. And I might bring the head down, kind of keep eyeline. Unless I hate that, let's find out. It's good, it's trial and error, baby. Maybe I'm thinking, this is why we want to deal with the spine first. Maybe I'm thinking we go back even further. Really exaggerate that. So you see now I'm moving the hands and it's horrible. Really exaggerate that shape of the spine. Yeah, that's a lot more dynamic now, I think. And you know what? Let's give her a bit of a head tilt, because we have our head bone selected. You'll get to know where these are. Just start clicking around. They'll come up right here. However, maybe we give her a bit of a head tilt. Yeah, this way feels sociopathic. Let's go this way. And I'm gonna grab her eyes again, and since we've kind of tilted her head down, I want to bring them up. So I'm gonna look at her straight on. It's always good to try, especially if you're using your own rigs and you know exactly where they are, try to keep the whites of the eyes visible. And by the whites, I mean highlights. Highlights in the eyes, the catch light. It just adds a lot more life to the pose. Was that the way she was looking already? Who knows? Okay, I'll lock rat scale that again. I'm going to take another look. That feels a lot more dynamic. Are the hands still kind of where they should be? Yeah, good. Okay. So now I feel like that hand should come back, but it's fine. We'll be here forever. We'll be here forever. Cool. So here's our pose. We have lock rotted it a million times. Very important. Doing it again because I'm neurotic. And when we import it into Sims 4 Studio, it's pretty simple. Also, definitely make sure that you don't have a search going while you lock rot things, because sometimes it doesn't. I found it doesn't actually lock rot things. It only rots things you're searching for. If I never say the word lock rot again, I'll be happy. Okay, so we have wrapped all our bones. We have kind of frozen them in place. We are saving our file. We have our rig select. Very important. Very important. We have our rig selected here in the outliner, and we can close our file. So that's our file done. We can import it into Sims 4 Studio. So I'm going to import my pose 1 into Sims 4 Studio. So you'll see it loads in. It's called pose 1. You can give it a name. Pose 1 default rig. And if you want to double check it, and you don't want to go into game, very easy thing you can do is you can just make sure you're using the right rig. First of all, if you're exporting a child pose onto an adult rig, weird things are going to happen. But make sure that your rig and your pose are here. And you're just going to hit export. And I just usually call it like export test, something like that. And you can, without having to go in game and see your sim horribly T-posing, which is not usually a problem for the default rig, you can just export it and double check that everything kind of looks the way you want it to look. So I bring it in, and this is just freshly exported. You can tell because the horrible perspective is still there. And everything looks good. So let's move on to talking about... before we get to Sim Ripper, let's talk about stealing EA poses. I love stealing. I love stealing. I love taking things. So you don't actually have to make a new clip for this, but this is just a way to do it. So, and this time, instead of exporting a EA and a blank pose, blank clip, we're gonna export an EA clip. And this is going to bring up, it'll take a lot more time to load it, but this is going to bring up this is going to bring up sort of the, all of the animations in the game. And you can search through here. They all have like different sort of like prefixes. So A is for adult. If we scroll down, we'll see like, or adult, not sorry, it's actor, I guess. Adult actor, whatever you want to think about it. A to A, actor to actor, so that's like two Sims interacting. If we scroll down, A to O, actor to object. So that's Sims interacting with an object. A C, no idea what that is. I don't know everything. C, child, a child. Child to child, child to object, child to adult, CD. I don't know. There's so many things. So many things. Toddler to toddler. Toddler. No, I'm not going to finish. Okay, anyway. We'll just grab one of these. Let's do a death scene just because it's here. And we're going to export that. And it'll automatically name it for you. So we're going to export it. It'll bring it up when it's done. We can open it up. And we can have both files open at the same time. So we'll bring, ooh, I have moved my, nope, you stay there. Oh dear. Blender, help. Cool. grab, move, done. Cool. We'll have both of our files open at the same time. So say we want to change the face. Something we can do is we can pull up an EA pose and we know exactly what, and this is in an animation so you can see they're animating, they're doing things. Oh, there they go. Oh, it's just like in game. Oh my gosh. So maybe we want to do this sort of surprised face. It's kind of just sort of like a mid face, like, oh. So what we're gonna do is we can actually, I'm using circle select to grab all these. Maybe I don't want the neck. So I'm just selecting all of these bones in the face. I'm hitting Control C. Sorry. I'm gonna turn on screencast keys because we won't be here a second. I'm hitting Control C. I'm copying pose. You can see copied pose to buffer. I can go into a different scene. I can select my bones in my rig. I don't have to just select the same ones. I can kind of select just everything. I'm hitting Control V and it pastes the face right on it. Just make sure that you lock rot it afterwards. So that's just kind of a easy thing to do. You can do that with bodies, you can do it with anything. You can copy poses from file to file. So if there's an EA animation in the game you want to use, that is a way to do that. But I was quite pleased with my face, so I'm going to keep it the way it was. Let's talk now about SimRipper. SimRipper is a free program you can use to steal your Sims from the game. I'm just gonna, pull it up. Let's go. Let's go. I have it just kind of say, I have a pretty old version. It takes a second. We might be having a little bit of a chat while it loads. SimRipper is great because if you are making poses for your own Sims, it is the best way to kind of negate that, lessen that back and forth between the game and Blender. Because poses are going to look different on every kind of Sim, especially if you use height sliders like I do, like a sociopath. So when we open SimRipper, this is what we're greeted with. First thing we want to do is we want to select a game. The best way to figure out which save game you're using is by loading into that save game, saving and quitting the Sims, and it'll be the most recent one. So let's figure out, don't worry about any of this. So I'm just gonna sort by date modified. I know I was in this save yesterday. Let's figure out what it was. It'll have your save game up here, so it's my spin-off save. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm going to grab a Sim that I know is kind of a regular height. Because I have a lot of Sims. I have some Sims that are slightly taller, slightly shorter, a lot shorter. So I'm just gonna go grab Vera, because I know she is a kind of just the default height. I hope. And you can also sort it by household name, first name, everything like that. I know her last name is Doe, so I'm gonna go grab her because she's my John Doe. And so it'll take a second to pull the Sim from the game, and they will be in the last outfit that you had them in. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna wait for it to go. It'll take a second. And if you have like textures that use HQ, like if you're planning on using those for renders, it'll take even longer. So she was in her key. So I'm gonna change her, I think, to her, oh god, 1 second. The cough came back. I'm going to change her to her, I believe first athletic should be kind of good for posing. But if you're going to be doing a specific scene in a specific outfit and it's kind of an unwieldy outfit, it's good to pull out a Sim and pose with them so you know you're working with the outfit. Like when I made a special pose for one of my magazine covers, and Obi's Sim Dre was wearing this huge skirt, and I wanted to pose her sitting at a table, and huge skirts and tables are not super compatible. So I pulled out her Sim in that outfit and posed her in that outfit. So this is how I've had it set up. This is how I was told to set it up. So take a screenshot, pause the video, do what you need to. And I'm gonna just save this out as a DAE. So what I'll do, let's go back to our desktop. And it's gonna give you a lot of files, so it's good to put it in a folder. Okay, yeah, no, thank you, Avast. So it's gonna, it just looks like it's one file, but it's also gonna spit out texture files. So once we're done with that, we can close it, be done with our day. So now I want to bring her in to the scene to check my pose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to leave pose mode. We're going to go into object mode. And we're going to go to File, Import, DAE. And I'll just go in here. And here she comes. And she's got her own rig. We're going to get rid of that. And you see that she's got her little Kajiko eyelashes. And they look a mess, so I'm just going to delete those. I always just delete the glass. It's not worth it if you're just doing it for posing. If you're doing it for rendering, different subject. So now what I want to do, I've got her in, she's in her little A pose. And I am going to go to my modifiers, this little wrench here. I'm going to also bring up screencast keys again. This will be here for a second. And kind of clean up my workspace. Ooh, okay. I'm going to go into modifiers. I'm going to give her the armature modifier right here. And I'm going to assign her to rig. So now she is doing the pose. It's just a little messy. I can't see her very well, can I? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down this rig here, and this is all of our parts of the default rig, and they're just going to get hidden. So now I can clearly see what her face is doing. Do I like it? Does it look okay? Are the pockets showing? Because my Sims have prodigiously large mouths for some reason. I'll bring back this is a good time. And also, hot quick tip, if you are posing with a sim or anything, go into this filter in your outliner. Click this little arrow, make things selectable and not selectable, because I don't want to keep clicking on her. I don't want to accidentally go out of pose mode and click on her and then be like, oh, my groove, you threw it off. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna click on a rig, I'm gonna go into pose mode. I am going to notice that I have given her terribly large pockets. I'm gonna just move those back, because I am at fault for that. I'm going to probably, I'll lock wrap that while I'm here. I'm going to grab her lids because I want to see her beautiful little catch light. I'm gonna, we're gonna also set it to individual ordinance because we're in a new file. So you can see it a little bit there, but we also don't want to make her look like super surprised. So yeah, maybe like that is a good sort of medium. So yeah, bringing in your sim that you're going to use for a scene or for anything is a great way. Also, bringing in a sim at the beginning of the process that you want to make a pose for is a great way to kind of emotionally connect with the pose. It sounds silly, but once you know who you're posing for and what you want them to look like, and you love your little blorbo, your pose is going to come out better because you're going to be having more fun. Fight me, it's true. So, and then also maybe I'll adjust her hand. I'm going to have to IK it again because I don't want to move the whole shoulder. Maybe I could just do this. Let's see. Little. So if I was posing Vera in this specific pose for this specific scene with this specific Jolie Bean couture accessory jacket, I would do this in Blender, and that way I don't even have to load in the game. I know it's gonna work. I know she's gonna look okay. I know it's gonna, nothing's like clipping horribly. So if you're making poses for other people, that's a whole different thing to think about. You just gotta trust that it works. And again, I really want to learn how to do that, like get the hand to follow the body shape thing, but I don't know how to do that yet, so maybe another time when I figure it out. I just gotta sit down and look at a bunch of text on how to do it. So that is our pose that we've made with the default Sims 4 Studio rig. Hooray, there was great cheering. You can now re-import this. You'll do whatever you want with it. Just make sure that rig is selected in our outliner, especially if you have more than one rig. Hide the other rigs, just select the one you want to import. Otherwise it gets real weird, real fast. Make sure it's visible. Okay, so let's now talk about posing with accessories. Accessories. They're so complicated, or are they? So posing with accessories, let's go ahead and I'm gonna just go back to our other working file, I think, which is on our desktop. Pose one. Because I've already lock-rotted some of the hands and stuff here, and I don't want to do it again. Okay. So sorry, I want her to be holding a knife. Gasp, or anything, really. Maybe I want her to be holding a very realistic iPhone. I don't know. Maybe that's your jam. Maybe that's what you want. So, if you have a pose accessory, this will not be talking about making your own pose accessories, but I will talk to you about bringing them into your scene, posing with them, maybe changing the bones around because they're fighting you. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go into my package file where I know there are pose accessories. They are somewhere. Oh, I've put them in the main folder, haven't I? Pose accessories, clue pose accessories. So I made a bunch of pose accessories for Halloween. Bunch of pose accessories. Don't want to ever make a pose accessory again. Unfortunately, I keep doing it. So I'm going to open up this dagger. So you will see, oh my god, a dagger. Oh, he's holding it. Weird, okay. So I'm going to export the mesh. So this is already a pose accessory that exists in game. I know I can apply it to my Sims and Cast. I just want to make a pose with it in Blender. And that I can then use in game. So I'm going to export, and this will be dagger. And we'll wait for it to export, and then it'll pop up in the window, and we can open it. It'll be fun. So I'm gonna close that. I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna open up my dagger file. It's gonna open on my other screen. This is the main screen. And it's gonna open like this. Textures are gonna load in. Ooh, textures, very nice, very nice. And we're just gonna grab this in object mode. We're gonna copy it and Control-C. We are gonna go into our pose that we're working on. We're gonna come out of pose mode into object mode. Otherwise, you're just gonna be pasting poses again. Hit Control-V, and there is our dagger. Whoa! And I'm gonna delete the new rig that came in with X. Or you can, alternatively just hit delete. So now it's floating in the air, and we don't like that. We're gonna do the exact same thing we did with Farah. We're going to come over here. The armature modifier is already on it because it came from a Sims 4 Studio file. We're just going to change it to rig. So now she's holding it in her hand. So if we come into this little green triangle menu, you can see it kind of assigns it a lot of different bones that are kind of around the hand. I have put these on the stigmata. The stigmata is a great little bone that does nothing. I will hydrate, thank you. The stigmata is a great little bone that does nothing in game but hold props. You can find it. It's usually in the middle of the hand. So also, since we just brought this dagger in, I don't want to click on it accidentally. So I'm going to turn on our little selectable thing. I'm going to close it. No, I can't click on it. Can't select it. Good. So I'm not accidentally selecting it. It's usually in the middle of the hand. So you can see that you've selected it because right up here it'll say our stigmata. You can assign a pose accessory to anything you heckin' want. I like assigning them to the stigmata because you can move them around without adjusting the pose. If you have a prop that is assigned to, say, a hand, so it's moving with the whole hand. I'm gonna come back over here. We're gonna go back here. So we'll see if we go to stigmata and we go to weight paint mode, you'll see it's red. This means the whole thing has been assigned. And with pose accessories and hairs and stuff like that, you'll only ever see kind of a solid red color. You can go in here, find maybe like ring 0 and make the whole thing red, and then make stigmata blue. Blue is unassigned, red is assigned. 0 to 1. Or maybe you want to assign it to the hand, like we said. So another thing you can also do is, it's a little cheeky, but you can definitely do this, is you can just copy this value here, go to the thing where it's assigned, and just paste it. It's gonna, you can just delete this one and make sure there's like no numbers. So now it's assigned to the hand. So if I want to move this, oh, not stigmata, see? So if I move the stigmata, nothing happens. It's not assigned to the stigmata anymore. It's assigned to the hand. Alternatively, I do this a lot of, I usually do this the opposite direction. I assign things to the stigmata this way. It's just easier. Just find the bone that it's assigned to and just rename it. Just rename it and delete the other one. It's super easy. But you will, if you do that, you will have to re-import your mesh into Sims 4 Studio, which is not too hard. So I would just assign it like here, change it, delete the other one, save it, re-import it where you got the mesh from, which I have closed, but you just re-import it, good to go. And it's just for personal use, so anything really goes. As long as you're not being like, I changed it to stigmata, please give me $5, I didn't make this. Yeah, just, you know, common sense. Be a good person on the internet, okay? Cool. Let's make her hold this dagger. So let's go from sort of a relaxed hand, and let's just make her hold the dagger. We're gonna do it in a very similar way. I'm probably not even going to, I don't know, well, maybe I'll eat my foot, but I probably don't think I will be readjusting those fingers because they're already kind of got a nice little bit of disorder that hands have, because nothing is perfectly evenly spaced in the world, in nature. I mean, like, not in things that aren't nature, yes, but. So I'm gonna move this around. I'm gonna move the thumb. I'm gonna make her hold this dagger. Hold a pencil. Hold it. You had a dagger at home? Hold it. You have a pencil? Hold it. See what your hand does. Make a fist. How are you holding things? It's very important. When in doubt, just act it out. It sounds like a primary school thing, but it's useful. Also, if you ever lose the stigmata, you can just, you know, you can just look it up. So this looks like she's pretty successfully holding it. Maybe I will rotate these in a little bit more, get that good grip going. Just grab your dagger at home. It's easy. What, you don't? You don't have one? Oh, sucks for you, I guess. Anyway, so now she's got it. Now she can, you can see how the IKing is kind of trying to approximate kind of what that would look like, but it's failing. So we're not going to adjust it too much. This is just kind of talking about bringing in pose accessories. And the IK is just a quick dirty fix for it, so you can still kind of do that. And now, oh my gosh, she's got a gun. No, she's got a knife. She's got a knife. Oh my god. And also, think about your silhouette again. This is a terrible silhouette. What is that? I don't know what that is. I hit R twice. I rotated. Oh, it's a knife. It's a knife. So just check it from different directions. Make sure. Oh my god, her hand is so broken. Oh, okay. That's still a knife. Pretty good. Okay, cool. Called done. Awesome. We have a knife. And then you just like, okay, you just import it, and then you say in your little notes, this needs this dagger. Okay. Cool. Next. What are we talking about next? Posing with height sliders. So, say you're a sociopath and you like to play The Sims with height sliders because you wish that teenagers were shorter, and because they are the same exact height as adults. And then you look in the wild and you go, oh my god, I want a cute sim. Oh my god, it's a teen. Or you have Lumia's height sliders in because you just like, you think that people should be taller because men always look shorter in this game for some reason and women look massive. Honestly, maybe that's your thing. Anyway, height sliders. There's certain ways to pose with height sliders. I have a sim that is prodigiously tiny. I don't know why she's so tiny. I just keep making her tinier. So let's go ahead. We can bring it in. Let's bring in a Poppy model. And I'm going to talk to you about adjusting your poses for height sliders in 2 different ways. Before I do that, actually, let's talk about let's talk about faking it before we making it. That was terrible. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about faking height in this game. So say you don't play with height sliders, okay? Say that you just want to make a pose where, oh, she's so short and he's so tall. Oh my god. How romantic. Oh, she's kissing on her tiptoes. It's raining. Okay, anyway, I'll stop. You can do that in several ways. This is when we're going to use the grab tool, the G. Oh, let me also turn back on screencast keys. Every time you open up a new file, I gotta do it. You can do that by grabbing and squishing things. Don't do this too much. It gets weird. You want to do it kind of gradually. You can just start like lowering your sim to the ground and just kind of squishing stuff in little places. Just so it's not, because I've seen some poses that look like this and they're terrifying. And you got this like really long torso. You kind of want to do it everywhere. You can bring your knees down or up. You can bring, don't do the root though, because then you'll go through the floor. You can just kind of squish them. Just kind of fake that feeling of height. So now if you like, if I reset the body now, you can see how much, you can kind of look at the grid here. You can see how much shorter they've gotten. It's just a small thing. You can see that they're just a little bit shorter. So that's a good way to fake it. In the game, I am going to get rid of those changes. I don't want to keep them. I'm going to talk to you about that. So the same thing goes with being taller. Just use G, look at it from the front, slowly make them a little bit taller, especially if you got 2 sims. If you have 2 sims in a scene, all you gotta do is bring in just like if I want this man, or maybe I want 2 of her. So let's open a recent file. Let's go to this person. Let's go to this EA rig. I'm gonna select this object and I'm gonna bring them into my scene. So maybe I got 2 people, okay? You need a person. Maybe I'll have, let me just import, so let's import Farrah real quick again. Farrah will be my second person. I'm gonna delete her rig, I'm gonna delete her glass. I'm gonna assign her to the rig we just brought in. And then I can grab that rig. I'm gonna thank you Farrah for your service. I'm gonna go ahead and grab your rig, pose mode. I'm gonna not move the rig in object mode. Remember, it does weird stuff, really weird stuff. I'm gonna just kind of grab your root. Oh, hi, I grabbed you. I'm so sorry. Anyway, it works. It's hard to tell. There's a lot of tiny little dots going on, right? So I'm gonna grab this rig here. So maybe they're having a a conversation and she's staring at her dead-eyed. And I'm gonna just kind of move her on up. Slowly. And then I'll move her down. Sounds like a cow. Sorry. Just enough to get that kind of illusion of what you want. That one sim is slightly taller than the other. And you can push this. But I advise pushing it all over. Not just in like the legs or the torso. I advise trying a bunch of stuff and just making sure those feet are still touching the ground. Oh, and if they're IK'd, you're gonna have to get rid of that because it's gonna mess with your pose. You just whoop, whoop, just like that. And now she's a little bit shorter and she's a little bit taller. Oh my god, tension. Anyway, I'm gonna revert this soon. Oh yes, okay. Yes, revert, please, thank you. Going to sip my tea. Okay, so that's how you kind of fake a height difference. If you have kind of just your standard sim. Let's talk about if you use height sliders, if you use the shorter teen mod. How are we going to kind of approximate that with the standard rig? There's you can do it pretty okay, but at a certain point there's just kind of gonna be like a God help you moment. Like especially if it's two sims interacting. Like I animated a fight scene and God help me, that was horrible. And one sim was really tall and one sim was really short. It was horrible. Don't recommend. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Let's go. Let's see what I got. Do I have a Poppy? Poppy. Pulp Fiction Poppy. Yeah, let's bring in Pulp Fiction Poppy. So I'm gonna get rid of her glass. And I think, oh, actually, did I make her? No, I think she is shorter. Okay. So if I apply her to this rig, she's gonna look a lot, yeah, she's gonna look like Nightmares. It's gonna be Nightmare Town. It's gonna be Nightmare Town. So what we want to do to kind of approximate this when we are adjusting the rig. Yeah, Nightmare Town is a bad place to be. So what we want to do to kind of fix this is we're gonna go into our rig and I'm gonna hide our person, our default sim here. Goodbye. So it's just the rig. I'll also hide the dagger. We don't need to look at that right now. And I'm going to hit tab to go into edit mode on the rig, and it's gonna come up with this sort of mess of stuff. So what I like to do to kind of approximate, it's not perfect, but on the default rig it does kind of work, is I'm just gonna kind of box select the top half of her body and bring it down. I might like start unselecting stuff with B. Basically, these are her eyes. This is the center of her eyes right here. And I wanna just line them up with her pupils. So I might just grab the eyes, bring those down. And then the hands get really, really funky when you bring it down like that. If you look at it from above, and I apologize for the nightmares you're about to receive, but if we assign her to the rig right now, you'll see her face looks okay. It's kind of closer. It's not less nightmare, but her hands, oh my god. I'm so sorry. So we don't want to go to edit mode on her. So we're gonna try and fix the hands a little bit. And I like to do that. I like to try and keep them on the right axes. So I'm hitting GX to go along the X axis, and I'm going to try and align them with her fingers. And now if I look from the top, you see they're lower. So if I was just moving these, like to line it like that, it's a lot less precise, and you can also just like kind of fix it already. I like to keep it even if I possibly can. You can fix that already by just, you know, moving it up like that and making sure that maybe they do need to come forward a little bit. It's hard to tell, but now it's a lot less nightmare-y. It's still pretty nightmare-y, but just know that if you do it this way, it doesn't work super well with like custom rigs, but for doing it with small changes, it does help you kind of approximate the face a little bit more. Hands just get really fucky no matter what. But that will help you kind of get closer to what you're actually going to see in game. So that's a way to work with height sliders. And at a certain point, I can actually show you these. I had like a custom rig set up when I was like trying to learn how to make eye targets. It was, and I'm not a rigger. Riggers are amazing. Technical artists are amazing and will always be the most valuable artists in the 3D field. Technical artists set up rigs and create rigs and stuff. So I had let's go to poses. We're going to, everything is in a weird place. So I had a base IK pose set up for my Sims that I was like slowly building, but you can see they're all kind of different heights. So I had them adjusted. So since I was using these Sims a lot, I could have them adjusted to where they don't look like nightmares and I don't have to do it every time. So you can just kind of make a base file like that if you have certain blorbos you're going to be like using and animating with a lot. So you'll see like Chad is slightly smaller. Leanne is kind of like the default size. Chad's slightly smaller. You can see their eyes. And, you know, I love when you put Sims on top of each other. It's just so creepy. And Val's actually slightly taller. So, and then you can always exaggerate that by moving bones around. But we're not going to talk about my terrible rig today, which gives me a really great segue into a really great rig. Okay, let's talk about an amazing rig that came out recently, okay? So we're gonna go on over to Vyxated's Tumblr, and I will include this link here. Actually, I'll post it in chat right now, and I'll include it in the description of the video. Vyxated is a Tumblr user that makes cast background, CC, bunch of stuff, just incredibly big brained. I cannot express enough how cool this stuff is. They say any pronouns, but I'll say they. They have created a pose rig recently that comes with a lot of amazing features. It has all ages, custom bone colors, and just so much stuff I want to go over with you today. They have also included a giant asset browser that allows you to take, they have like different EA faces that they've saved, and it allows you to apply them, blend them. It's so fast. It's incredible. They have different styles of Sims you can import, and they've created this whole Python-based rig controller for it. It's amazing. Okay, so say you were just downloading this, and we can go to, I highly recommend you read through the documentation. It's a lot of stuff, and if you're new to posing, it's gonna kind of make your brain bleed. So I'm gonna try and kind of like not walk you through it, but show you how everything works. But the documentation is incredibly detailed, lots of pictures, good stuff. So if you get lost, recommend. But let's go over. Say we're downloading this for the first time. We're gonna go to Sims File Share. We can go Google Drive. But we're gonna just download this. So, did you know? Recently I learned if you just hold down Control, double click, it'll just download it for you, and then just close the extra tabs. I didn't know that for a long time. I don't know, just a little thing that helps. So let's go to our downloads. So we're going to export these. I have WinZip, so, or WinRAR, which I'll never pay for. I'm going to export these to each to a separate folder. Make sure that, okay, so I was wrong. You don't want to export rig plus extras. You're just going to leave that one as a zip, but you can export rig plus if you want. So you're going to have your two folders here. You have your rigs, and he's got them all in here. There's like a combined one with all the different age groups, just one for an adult, a child, an infant, a toddler. And if you open up any of these, I can show you what it's going to look like. I recommend keeping these in a safe place. Log in them somewhere good and just look, whoa, my god, so many things to click. What? Amazing. Anyway, what you're going to want when you do this is you're going to want this Rig Plus Extras add-on that he has made. And I'm going to show you how to install it, okay? So we are going to go to Edit, Preferences, and Blender Preferences. You're going to go onto this tab that says Add-ons, and you're going to install. So it's pretty easy. What is very important though is you don't want to unzip this, okay? You just want to click on the zipped file, and if you install add-on, it'll bring it in. It's very easy, so I've already done this, that's why I'm not doing it. So you will see it comes up, Rig Plus Extras. Just check that box, make sure it's enabled. So what I found with this is anytime you click on his rig, it'll bring up this box in the sidebar here. If the sidebar is missing, you can click over here. You can hit N. And also turn on screencast keys. Ooh. So now, it's in a weird place, isn't it? Maybe we can move that for now. There we go. And up. Okay. So yeah, okay. So if we click back on, it's in this little animation tab. And it's got a lot of stuff. Don't worry about it right now. We'll go over it. But that should come up whenever you see. If you don't see this, make sure it is named. He's got in the outliner here, you see there is Rig Adult and Rig Plus Adult. Rig Adult is your rig. It's like your basic Sims 4 Studio rig. Rig Plus is what controls the rig. So if you try to come here and like edit and move things around, you shouldn't be able to because it's being controlled by Rig Plus. So you can actually hide this for now and just click on Rig Plus. So now if we click on it, we'll see this window. If you don't see this window, you've probably renamed it. I did this. So I like clicked on it and I was like, where's all my stuff? Oh my god, I can't handle this. What happened? It actually has to be named Rig Plus. Otherwise that stuff doesn't come up. Anyway, that's just something I ran into recently that I was like, what did I do? Okay, cool. Let's talk about the asset library. So to add an asset library, we're going to go to Edit Preferences, and you're going to go to File Paths here. And there's this little box that says Asset Libraries. So this is our Rig Plus assets that came in that zip file. Right here. So put this somewhere safe. It's these three little files. Just put the whole folder somewhere safe. I have it pointing to like my pose folder that I have. And you just go ahead, you just add it. Click on the whole folder, it'll add it. It's there. Good. So just, don't lose it. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go down to the bottom of the left hand of the screen till it makes a little plus sign, this little plus sign here. We're gonna click and drag, we're gonna make a new window on the side here. And we're gonna go up here to the top left and change this editor type to Asset Browser. So nothing is there. Oh my god. That's okay. Go from current file, we're gonna change it to Vyxated's Rig Plus Assets. This is amazing shit, okay? This shit is amazing. He has added in all these different things. Maybe you want your sim to be posing on a couch. Maybe you want them to be posing on a table, a toilet, I don't know. It's so cool. So he has a bunch of objects, he has a bunch of poses, a bunch of models. If you go down, there's different, you can grab a toilet, throw it into your scene. Only supported in object mode, that's okay, I know how to get there. We're gonna throw it in. I don't know how to throw it in on the center of the scene yet, but you can throw it in anywhere and just kind of go up to item and then click drag, select all those, set it to 0. And then it'll be kind of like you've put a teleporter knight in the middle of a toilet. So then you can just start like posing around your toilet and do the same thing where this is already enabled on his, which is great. So you can just click it off so you're not accidentally clicking your toilet all the time. So that's something you can do, which is really cool. So these are basically all living in those other files, and you can just pull them in at any time. And you can also add to this by opening up those other files and doing more complicated stuff. But that's all in his documentation, and it did take me a hot second to figure out. But if you are into that, read it, go through it. So if you have like a pose accessory you use a lot, you can add it to his pose accessory file. I have added my pistol to his pose accessory file because I use it a lot. So now I can just kind of like add it into my scene. Oh no, what have I done? There it is. And just 0 there, and I can append it to the rig. Okay. So back to nonsense. Let's go through also, I have like some people that I've also loaded in too. And he's got a bunch of bases. But we'll get more into the bases work the same as objects, by the way. You can just drag them into your scene and assign them to the rig. What's important though, when you're assigning something to a rig, is you want to make sure it's assigned to rig, not rig plus. 1 second, I'm going to cough. That was a good one. Anyway, make sure he has by default, he has an adult female and adult male, but he's got also a lot of other body shapes that you can throw in, and you can also always throw in your own sims, like we talked about. Same thing, import DAI, DAE, pound to rig, profit. Okay. So I'll throw in Alejandro because I just like looking at him. Anyway, I will assign him to rig adult, and you can see that weird stuff has happened because he's not on the origin. Don't move them off the origin. There we go. Now he's got boobs. It's amazing. Okay. And I know he's kind of roughly the right size. I think he's a little taller, but you can check on this one because this should be the top flip. So I'm gonna just scale him. Yeah, this is how I align it on this. This should be kind of your middle lip. And I'm just scaling him all together. And with this kind of stuff, you don't want to, it's kind of hard to move all of the bones and stuff. So you just kind of, it usually comes out okay, even if you have a very short sim. But when you have two sims interacting, it's better to kind of just like either make that, if you're doing like a really complicated animation, just make that sim taller in the game. Make them like the same height just for that scene if you need to. Because just like trying to estimate short and how the two are going to interact, it's rough. It's especially if you got like multiple points of contact. It's rough, man. So just, it's better. And this tool also has some really cool stuff going on. So I'm going to actually go over that with you right now. It's exciting. I'm going to just kind of squish this. Way more room to work. All right, so I've made him non-clickable so I don't accidentally click him. We're gonna go back. Oh, it's orange. No, pose mode. There we go. We're gonna bring back our animation over here so we can start talking about pieces of the rig. And this is great because there is this little box here, because if you get overwhelmed, you can just start turning stuff off and just look at pieces of the rig at a time. So let's talk about the bones this rig comes with, starting with the root. This is our root. It's that little bone in the crotch. But now it's a fun little shape on the floor. You can move your sim around. If you're gonna pose your sim lying down, congratulations. They're on the ground. I did this the other day. I put a sim in, because I put like a sim in a tub, and I just kind of rotated them on their side and started posing from there. But most of the time you're probably going to keep them kind of like this, or maybe moving them around if you have multiple sims in the scene. You have these little green triangles. So these, and also I'm gonna bring back the body. These control your pelvis. This kind of controls the location of the pelvis and brings the legs around with it. And this is more of the rotation. You can also control the location with this one, but I found that you have better results if you just kind of start with the green ones and then finesse it with the pelvis. Yeah. I'll take those away. You have your head control. This is, I feel like I always want to grab this, like grab it by the plumb bob and move it around. Bad idea, nightmare zone. This is your head control. It's for rotating. You can grab it if you want. That's bad news bears if you do that. This is the eye control. This is an amazing eye control. Also the best part about this rig, it's free. It's free. Anyone can download it. It's amazing. This is an amazing eye control. You can see the subtle movement. I'm just gonna geek out about this rig for the next 30 minutes. I'm so sorry. You can see the subtle movements in the eyelids as the eyes move around to account for the movement of the eyes, so they're not popping out. You also have all of these little controls here, and it seems like a lot, but it's okay. Mostly you're gonna be grabbing the screen thing to move the eyes. And if maybe you have a sim talking to another sim in a scene, and you want the eyes to stay locked on the sim, but you're moving the head around or you need to adjust something, there is this lock eye target thing over here. You can change from a 0 to a 1. So now when I can show you what it does without it, sorry. And now if you move the head around, the eyes are gonna kind of stay locked with the head. But if you change this from a 0 to a 1, you move the head around, the eyes are gonna kind of stay locked on that single point. Great if you have two sims talking to each other and you want to like maybe do a little bit of animation, move the head around, but keep that eye contact. So I am just going to Alt G to reset that. And we can talk about, these are individual eye controls. So if you have a sim that's cross-eyed or you're into that, you can do that. This right here controls the eyebrows. It is incredibly fun. I'm just gonna hit G and then I could do a whole bunch of stuff. It's amazing. When we bring back the face controls, you'll see that there are also individual points you can move, but this is a really fun one. I like this one a lot. These two arrows here control the top lids and the bottom lids. So you can kind of bring them up together. And I'm just hitting G, I'm not rotating or anything. I'm just grabbing and pulling. And there's a sort of, he has limitations, or they have limitations set on how far things can do. You can do things like, you know, realistically, but you can always, like, I believe, go in there and just grab them and move them too. These are individual eyelid controls. So you can kind of rotate these if you want to just do one at a time. And again, these are both. Same thing here. These little gray arrows here kind of bring out the eyelid. It's hard to see, but if you, sometimes when you do like a pretty far movement, you'll get some like clipping and they just kind of bring the eyelid out. So you can avoid a lot of that clipping in game. So that's the eye control. So we can talk about, while we're here, let's talk about the head. The eye control also comes up with the head. Cool. I guess these are always on. Didn't know that. But you can see that in here you have kind of the same controllers for the eyebrows. So if you want to really get in there and finesse it, you can. They have limitations as well based on, you know, the human body. So you can get more kind of easier, more fluid things. You don't actually accidentally overdo it. There's a squint control. Squinting is fun. We smile with our eyes unless you're a sociopath. You have, these are your cheek controls. This down here is your jaw. So previously that little bone right there. This is your jaw. It can go in many which ways. Many which jaw-like ways. I still like to constrain it. I believe you only have to hit Z one time on this model. On this rig to open and close the mouth. And these are your little individual lip controllers. If you accidentally hide something, you can control Z. I accidentally hit H instead of G all of the time. But you can make little individual movements. Same thing here. Edge of your mouth controls. You can really clip it into the teeth if you want to, make some nightmares happen. So those are your face. So it's kind of just like, this is your start, and then you can kind of mush it around. God, that's so nice. You can just move it around. And this is your neck control as well. So you got a neck, you got a head. They do kind of similar things, but you can push poses with them pretty well. Let's go look at the body, which we usually start with. Body is very simple. You have different points of your spine you can grab. They do many things. If you grab all three of them at once, he has he, any pronouns, have already enabled kind of individual origins. So if you grab all three at once, it's an easy way to make a sim move kind of fluidly. Or you can do them one at a time, but I recommend starting with grabbing all three. There is, once again, the neck. You have your scapula, which we use to tweak, because I'm going to show you the amazing hand controls in a second. And then you have your pelvis. When you're doing something like sitting, one thing that I like to do in a sitting pose, I like to rotate the pelvis, because that's what your pelvis does in real life. Just as a hot tip, just maybe play around with the pelvis in your sitting poses. They'll be a lot more realistic. And then also another one of my favorite controllers, the posture controller. It's so much fun. Oh, that's great. It's just a great controller. So good. Let's go ahead and talk, while we're here, let's talk about the arms. Or, you know, let's talk about legs. Arms legs are simpler than arms. So we can just bring it down to just the legs. So we've got these feet controllers. These feet controllers are incredible. They make me laugh so much. If you lose something in your scene and you have it selected, if you hit delete, the delete key on your numpad, the dot, it'll center it in your screen, by the way. So with these, you can do a lot of stuff, and it's all based on the way you're rotating. So right now I am looking at the front. I can rotate the foot this way and this way. If you constrain it to an axis, so like X, Z does a little cute little toe roll. I love a toe roll. They're so much fun. If you constrain it to Y, you're gonna get that side to side action. If you just kind of let it live, it's gonna be like a bunch of them. But I keep looking at an orthographic. There you go. But yeah, it can get a little messy, so it's kind of nice to just kind of constrain it to either a view or whatever you're looking at. Actually, I don't really need the other leg because it's very similar. Let's see, what does this do? Oh, yes. So this moves the whole foot by the toe. So if maybe you wanted to do a ballet pose. I don't know. We tried doing ballet poses with it, but it's kind of hard. This grabs the toe like that. Any blue controller is kind of like the red controller is the big moves. Blue is finesse. So you want to kind of start with the red controller. I love a toe roll. Obsessed. And this kind of is just like if you need to specifically move it some direction, you do that at the end. Same goes with this. Like if you need to move something very specifically the old-fashioned way, do it like that. So we can just kind of look at how this moves. If we just grab it, you'll see it's already got that IK functionality built in. If we want to angle the leg, we can grab this little box, and I like to look at it top down. You can grab that little box and just kind of change where the knee is going. And also if we look at it top down, I can rotate my foot better. But it's gonna kind of try and approximate that ground plane. So that's when, if you got like a foot coming up here, that's when that like, this comes in really handy. It's gonna try and, it's pretending there's a ground plane right underneath it. So if you're rotating it, that's the kind of rules it's following. So that's nice if you've got like a foot raised or something like that. And I believe, yeah, these are all kind of like if you need to tweak. If your hips are looking really funky and you need to tweak. I do this with shoulders all the time. They have the same controllers for shoulders. And you just need to kind of make it look okay. Because there's certain restrictions that Sims, posing with Sims have. But I'm gonna kind of, like if you move arms in a weird direction, your shoulders are gonna look kind of weird with this rig. So like there's certain points where the rig is like fighting you, and you can use that to kind of make it look a little more natural. But so that is your leg. So let's take it to the arms and the hands. We can just look at one. They're very similar. So hands are similar to arms. Shut up. Hands are legs. Arms are similar to legs. We use the red controller to control the big position of the hand. And watch that shoulder movement. Oh my god, it's amazing. Look at that shoulder follow that arm, and it's like magic. Oh, I love looking at it. I just love it. Look at that fluid motion following it, and then you break it, and the nightmare zone is back. So the one thing with this controller is you can't rotate the hand. So sometimes I like to grab both of these at the same time when I'm just trying to go really fast, and that way I can like rotate and move at the same time, so I don't have to click one or the other. And so we can go over, so this is very similar to the legs where it has these minute controllers for adjusting at the end. I suggest waiting on these till the end, and especially, and there's also a controller for elbows. Yay! Say your elbows look really weird. You can adjust them with these little controllers here. And just kind of fix what you broke. And this square performs very similar to the knee square. The elbow will follow it wherever it is in your scene. So let's talk about the hands, okay? So hands look very scary. There's a lot of controllers here. A lot of these controllers are very fun. Okay, let's start with the simple stuff, okay? You have these controllers that kind of look like scythes. If you hit G, you can kind of rotate a fingy, yeah? So it'll rotate these two bones in the fingy. Alternatively, you can, just do it like that, like the way we would do it normally. If you want to rotate the whole fingy, you just hit R and rotate as normal. So you can kind of do that very quickly. Same thing goes with the thumb. R to rotate, G to wiggle in and out. This is our rotation of the whole hand. We saw that earlier. If your hands get really weird or they're in a really strange position, you can use this controller to kind of make the forearm rotate in a more natural position. This is our stigmata. It's like a big triangle. It's easy because it doesn't, it's hard to lose. Very good. And then these are all our like individual finger bones. Let's talk about some fun stuff with the hands in this rig. This rig makes me so giddy, like a child. Okay, so this is our instant hand relaxer. Oh my god. All I did was just move it with G, and it gives me an instantly relaxed hand. Hallelujah. Amazing. I love that controller. This one will give me an, let's see, G, sorry, not R. This one will give me a little fist. It'll grab all of those. So you can do like R, Z, Z, and then grab that, make a fist. Wow, let's go. Amazing. The hand tools are amazing. They are also symmetrical, so the other one is very similar. Speaking of those eye targets, which I was not speaking of at all, let's talk about locking hands and feet with this tool. So this tool has kind of a built-in arcade foot, right? So these guys are already arcade, but if you wanted it to move around like similar to the other basic rig, like if you want to do like a jump or something, you can change this from a 1 to a 0. 1 is going to keep it exactly where it is in the scene, or try, you know, physically, if possible. It's still going to follow kind of like a, it's not going to like hold them there forever. It's going to try and estimate what it is. So this is great. It's great for if you want to move like your body around, but you don't want your legs to move. If you're doing a dance and you need your foot planted, great for that. No sliding feet here. No, thank you. Hands are a little bit trickier because they will do this little thing where, well, let me actually show you first. Also, there is a reset bone button here, a reset all, amazing. So let's actually just move this. So if you see, as we move this around, the hand is kind of following where the forearm is pointed. And that's because we don't have the hands locked. So say again, you're doing a little dance, so you need that hand to stay firmly on the hip, but you want to move the torso around, they're looking around. You can lock that hand. So now it's, if you move the torso, well, I didn't even show you moving the torso with it unlocked. If like we're moving this around, you'll see that the hand is moving kind of with it. If we lock it, oh wait, hold up. This one, not the green one will move everything. The yellow one will move less. There we go. Sorry. I was like, what did I do? Yeah, okay, so you can see the difference there. That it's gonna try and stay put. The only thing this I found is that you kind of have to commit to it, like the whole animation, because I've done poses where you can't turn it on and off per pose. So if you're doing like an animation and you need that hand to stay put, you're gonna turn that on at the beginning. And it's also a little annoying because you can see that it pops. So like if you've done a pose, like, and you're like, oh, I'm so happy with this, but I wish the hand wouldn't move because I want to do another one. And you change it and your whole wrist changes position. You're just like, ah, dang, I should have done this before. So it's just something to think about. But it's not too bad. You just have to kind of realign it where you want it. And depending on where your hand was, it could be real weird. So that's the locking the hands. So let's reset everything. And we can bring back our controllers so we can look at everything. It's a lot, I know, especially if you're trying to grab something. That's why turning these on and off is so nice. So we've kind of basically gone through the whole rig together. Let's look at some of the fun things that we can do with it, okay? So you know how we talked about height sliders, how we talked about faking height sliders. You can do that with this rig very easily. So there is an adjust height slider. If you click and drag, you can type things in, but I always just click and drag on the box. You can adjust how tall a sim is. in the rig. It's really hecking nice. You can make a fake little height slider just by dragging these values around. And drag them around until they look kind of not creepy, right? So if you have like really short legs and a really long torso, that's a pretty creepy looking sim. You can reset it by just typing in a 0. So if you want to have 2 sims you're animating in a scene, one taller, one shorter, that's a super easy way to do it. Amazing stuff, really good. There is, since this uses Pancake's animation tools, there's a bunch of fun stuff that comes with that. There's an x-axis mirror. So like say you're like holding something in front of you. You want to make a pose of someone holding something. So if you just grab one side, you can just do that shit. That's amazing. And you can turn this on and off and it'll be fine. So now I'm like only moving one side. So maybe you just want to block out something really fast and you don't want to grab both hands at once. You can do an axis mirror. Whee! Oh, also on the arm, this is it where you fix shoulders if they get weird. And if it like, and you can change stuff like that. Okay, sorry. So you can do that. Say you have a pose. Actually, let's go get a pose and I will show you. So let's reset this again. Let's go back into our asset library, okay? We are going to close our objects. We don't need objects right now. We are going to go into poses. So you have head and body. Let's go into body. So you'll see that there's a couple good options in body already. You have arms child, all this other stuff. I'll make this bigger so we can read it. Arms one side. Doing stuff. I like doing, this is a great one because it's got a hand on the hip. If I can find it. There we go. So to use this, we are going to make sure we're in pose mode. We are going to right click on it. We're going to select pose bones. So right now, if I hit apply, it's going to do it on both sides. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I only want it on one side. So what I'm going to do once it's selected those pose bones, there we go. I'm going to hit C to bring my circle select. I'm going to use my middle mouse to deselect that side because I don't want it to affect that. And then I'm going to hit apply pose and it's only going to do that one side I want. Then I can IK it and then move on with my life. It's a really great tool. I'm going to do it again because I want to show you. Because remember all that time we spent posing that stupid hand? Look, it's done. And you can just adjust it from here. And it's using EA poses, so they're gonna look nice in the game. So you can just adjust it for clipping and move on with your life. It's so nice. Okay, so another thing we can do with the pose library, the asset library, you just click through here. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff you can do. There's like hands. You can do all kinds of hand shapes. You want to make a fist in an instant, you can just select pose bones, make sure the other one isn't selected, because it will select both. And then if you can just apply pose, and now you have fist. Congratulations. It's so cool. Let's look at faces, okay? Let's go to not body, but head expressions. There is a large library of EA expressions, and they're all labeled and they're great. So we want to do that little flirty smirk that we tried to do with the other pose. We can just select our pose bones again. We're just going to apply it, and look, now he's doing it. Maybe if you're using your own sim, you want to adjust it a little bit. You can just kind of, maybe you want to see those. I always like to see the whites of the eyes because I feel like it adds a lot of life to a pose. You can do that. And same thing, like maybe you're making eye contact with someone or in the scene and you want to have like, maybe you want to have more of this guilty face. I would just deselect you can just shift click on it. Just deselect the eye rig so it doesn't move. and then you can apply it. So now it's like they're still looking that direction, but it hasn't moved. Yeah, it didn't do the eye rig. So just deselect what you don't want to adjust. Another fun thing you can do with a pose library is, say I want kind of the feeling between two emotions. One thing you can do is you can select your pose bones again, and you can blend a pose. And this is going to bring up kind of a slide back and forth system where you're blending between what was there and what you have selected. So maybe you don't want to like fully go all the way. You just click when you're happy, and then you have a new face that's not in the pose library. It's super, super useful. It's very fast, and they're all EA faces, so it's just gonna match in game. It's gonna look good. He's also got folders for everything, honestly. There's different eyes, mouths, different mouth shapes if you're doing lip sync. He has lip sync mouths in here. It's incredible. Honestly incredible. It's flipping amazing. Correct. Speaking of flipping. Good segue, Andy. I'm gonna lock rot this. You have to lock rot this to do this. Very important. So something that we haven't been able to do before without Pancake's tools is flipping an entire pose. Because in cast, if you're making a cast pose, it flips it automatically. So if you make a pose, you bring it into cast, you're like, oh, it doesn't look as good flipped. Okay, so if you if you have a pose lock rotted, very important, otherwise this won't work, you can click this button and it'll mirror the entire thing. It'll just flip the pose. Yes, okay, so cool. Sorry, should be distracting me. And then also he has buttons for inserting keyframes, inserting to all, stuff like that. So you don't have to just hit I lock rot. So yeah, that's something that we weren't able to do before. It's very, very hard, but now that there is a script for us to just do it. So I believe that is kind of a brief overview of Vyxated's pose rig. It's great. It's amazing. I'm checking my notes, making sure I didn't miss anything. Exporting it. Cool. I could make the same pose with it that I made earlier. Let's see, let's do it. Let's do it just really fast. Let's see how fast we can do it. I'm gonna reset all. We're gonna make this pose that we had made previously for Vera. So let's actually bring in Vera by Ali. We're going to import DAE, and we are going to go find our Vera, import her into the scene, get rid of her old rig, disgusting, and delete the glass, then click on her. And before I assign her, I just want to make sure, so I think she is a little bit shorter, so I'm going to just scale her up right there. Remember, this is your middle of your mouth. I'm going to scale her up. I'm going to assign her to Rig Adult, not Rig Plus, Rig. And I'm going to try and make kind of the same sort of contrapposta pose that I had. Make sure she's not selectable because that's annoying. I'll probably delete this lamp too. So I'm going to start, let's see, let's turn off things we don't need. And I'm going to just start at the hips. It's a good place to start. Just kind of, let's bring our feet, our leggies back. Going to move her legs. I like to move, if I'm just rotating and I want them to stay kind of even on the ground plane, I like to do it like that. So she's kind of floating here, you can see, so I'm going to take this green thing, I'm going to bring it down. Now she's back to earth. This leggy is, I don't want it to be super tilted. Or maybe I do, maybe that's fun for me. Maybe I want a little bit of a kick now that I can. Or maybe I don't want that. I don't know. It's hard when you're doing like, trying to get it to them both to be straight, but also, so I'll move maybe the center of gravity over this leg. And I'm gonna try and get this leg to straighten out. We can come back and finesse this if we want to. Remember to constrain these to different axes because it's gonna make your life easier. And clip. I'm like clicking on that, but it's also clicking. That's weird. And I think I'm gonna pop her hips forward as well. There we go. That's bringing that leg up. And then I will grab our arms. I'm gonna lock rod that really quick. I'm gonna go back to that arm on the hip, select those bones. I don't want to do it here. And apply that there. And then I can just select this, hand control, bring it out. Maybe I'll also have this selected so I can rotate it a touch. Just so her thumb isn't clipping into her nice Jolly Bean sweater. And then I will bring back my hand control, just kind of relax those fingers a bit. Maybe not with this one. And go away. It's very easy to hit the wrong keys all of the time. I'm guilty of that. The pinky likes to stray, and I like to create some... I like to group fingers together. It just feels more natural to me for some reason. I will back rot that. And then I will just bring this hand down like that to her side. Maybe rotate it in a more, like, more parallel to her body. Bring my hand control back. Just grab the relax tool. Done. We've relaxed a hand. Amazing. And then we'll go over to our expressions. And we can get that little flirty pose. Select pose bones. Apply pose. I think, oh, because her head is not here. That's what happens. So you'll see that her eyes are not having it. So I'm going to come in here and adjust and kind of push it more for her. This is why having your own sim in here, if you're making them for your own sim, is great. Because that way it's just less back and forth between the game and Blender. A lot less opening, especially if you have a lot of mods. So I know that's gonna look like a great pose on her. I'm gonna check it from all directions. Maybe I want to bring up my scapula a little bit. Just double check. You could also lock this hand, but I'm not bothering to do that right now because I didn't think about it beforehand because it's a problem I have. I'm seeing that my shoulder looks a little strange, so I'm gonna try and use this to, it's very tricky, but I want to maybe futz with it just so it's kind of a little more, yeah, natural like that. So that's like the last thing you would do. And then I can just double check it, make sure it looks good, make sure I'm happy with it. It's a lot, you know, it was a lot more automated than our last thing, but it was fast, and if I just need it for one pose for a scene, maybe I'll adjust the hips a little bit differently. Maybe I'll bring this foot in, maybe I'll just, you know, but for what it is, I like it. So to export this pose, what we're going to do is we're going to hide our rig plus, we're going to show our rig, and make sure we're in pose mode. And you can kind of bring up this timeline here. So you'll see nothing is keyed on this. I was just controlling this. So we're gonna have to insert a keyframe. You can do that just like that. Make sure everything is selected. Or you can also do lock rot scale if you're neurotic like me. And that will key it for importing. An important thing to avoid maximum nightmares. Importing into Sims 4 Studio, when you have a controller rig, you need to be selected on the regular rig. You need to have rig plus visible, but not selected, okay? Not selected, otherwise nightmare town. Save your file. Make sure the last thing you did was lock rot that rig adult, okay? And then just make sure it's selected, it's blue, and rig plus is visible, but not selected. Okay, we're going to import this. Also, it's good to make a copy of the file so you're not just working off of the file, just, you know, life lessons. But this is just to show you, and I didn't realize we were working in this file the whole time. It's fine. So we're just gonna import our adult, which is there as pose. And to double check it, we can export, not an EA clip, our pose. We're going to export, we're just gonna call it export. And this will just export it onto the B6 Sims 4 Studio rig so we can check it, make sure no nightmares have occurred. Once you get this stuff down, it's a lot easier to not have to check it every time. But if you're just starting and you're tired of moving in, so you'll see how it's like a lot more, you know, the expressions are a lot bigger on the Sims 4 Studio model. But you can see it's imported fine, it's not on its side, there's no really scary T-posing going on. That it works. So that's how you use that rig. Yeah. Okay, last thing. This is a little advanced. Let's animate. Not well, but I'm gonna just show you the concept of it, okay? So say I want to, I'm lazy. Yes, I know, shocking, right? Say I want to include a bunch of poses, or I don't want to leave this file. So you can see this is your timeline. And if you drag it through the timeline, this is where an animation would be. So there's a certain amount of ways to do this. One way for those pose makers that make all-in-one files, which are great. I love you. I love you pose makers that make all-in-one animations. It's so nice because I use the Wicked Ones pose player and it's just nice to cue that up. I love you. What you can do is I like to give it like 20 frames and then I'll just lock rot it again. So it should look the same. You should see this bar right here. And that'll hold it for 20 frames in game. And then I will go to like 10 frames and I will give it a new pose. So like if I want maybe I'll lock her eyes. And I will kind of like, ooh, she's like looking at you from the side now. Whoa, she's talking. So I'll lock rot that again. And then I'll do another 20 frames and do that. But now you can see, oh my god, you just made an animation. Look, her head turns. Animating is a lot like that. It's similar to that. So, but, so basically I would do this until I'm happy, or I have all the poses I want, and then just kind of save that out. Make sure the last thing you do, hide it. You go into Rig Adult, make sure it's keyed. You can just key it at the start and end of your pose, basically. But however long, you want to make sure they match frame-wise, right? So you can just like key it here, and you should see this big orange bar. That means that it's the same. If the bar breaks, something has changed, basically. You can kind of see that here and here. So like this is different than this, so the bar has broken. But if I was to key it again at 40 or something, and custom properties, no, just lock rot scale, you'll see the orange bar is back. Okay, So that's a way to animate. It's very basic. You can just go pose to pose like that. Animation is a lot of pose to pose. Animation is complicated. I'm not good at it. I like to do it sometimes. I can't claim to be great, but I enjoy it. So we can talk about really quick animation. Animation, the best way to approach it from a very, very new point is think about your big poses. Like if you were to make a pose pack, think about the big, strong poses you would have in your animation and start there. Start by kind of creating a pose pack. And then you can grab these little guys on this rig and you can just play it with spacebar. So I know this is what it's going to do in game. It's just going to turn there. Maybe that's too fast for me. I can just hit G while I'm hovering over the timeline, move it, and now maybe it moves a little slower. So you can move stuff around like that. So what you would start with is let's get rid of this like hold pose. So now she's a whole time, for this whole time, she's gonna be, oh, hold up. Excuse me, I didn't have all the bones selected, there we go. Now for the whole time, she's gonna be moving her head. Now she moves really slow. Animation, start with key poses. Key poses are your big movements, your big hero poses. Make up your key hero poses first. Time them out so that when you play this, they feel natural. And then that's when you are allowed to go in and start futzing. So let's say I want her to bring her hand up like she's waving. God, it's so easy, isn't it? It's incredible. Okay, so now I have a pose. I have an animation where she turns her head and her hand comes up, but oh God, what is her elbow doing right there? That's weird, right? What you can do, when you see the issue, if you want to, you can do something like that and like just key that one bone. So now when her hand comes up and moves like that, and you can just kind of slide back and forth. Right for T. And fix things like that on the fly. And that's called a passing pose. Well, not really. A passing pose is like if you had two completely separate poses and you did something interesting in the middle. So that's like so you have our key poses that are our big poses. When you think poses, that's what it is. A passing pose is how do those poses, what happens in the middle of those two poses? That's a passing pose. But roughly, you know, that's like, for these two poses where she goes from wrist to, you know, from like hip to sky, this is our passing pose. So you want to make this as like an interesting pose as well. So maybe she tilts her hand here. Maybe this is our passing pose, okay? So it's happening in an interesting way. So we're animating. Oh my God. It's a lot of trial and error. I highly recommend, if you really want to get into animating, studying the 12 principles of animation. That they're great. Just Google them, look them up, read about them. It's gonna elevate your animations and help you understand things a lot more. I'm here to just show you how to make the Sims move in Blender because it makes me laugh. Okay. But that's a basic animation kind of thing. And then to import it, very same thing. Just make sure your rig is set up to, it has it all IK'd, rig selected, rig plus visible, and it'll import just the parts you have keyed. So now that I've ruined my workspace, and if you want to, like, you've made too many windows, by the way, if you want to like make one go away, you can just hit join areas. Make sure it turns into this little guy first. Right click, join areas. Okay, so that is all I have on my outline, and I would like to go over questions. So, and open up the question document that you guys have all been submitting questions on throughout and see, hopefully we covered everything, but I will go over specific stuff. So thank you for being very patient. Ice cream for breakfast asks, why is the sky? Atmosphere, and there's air particles. So like atmospheric perspective is when you're looking through air. So air has density, whether we know it or not. So the more air you look through, the lighter and farther away things seem. So like mountains, when you look through air, a lot of air and they're very far away, they'll get closer to the color of the sky than if you were like standing right close, like very close to them, and they're very vibrant. That is why the sky is. When will Cordy's tape give way in the pool? Hopefully today. Would it be possible to go over adjusting some heights? These height centers of the game. I hope I answered that for you. Let me know if I didn't. You probably already went over this. Found it easy to form the mesh when you pose. Mostly have this problem with shoulders, making a fist with the fingers. Anyways, to practice the skill and fix things. If you're using height sliders, you'll have a lot of issues with fingers deforming, I found. I don't know, Dominion, if you're using height sliders, but just make sure you're rotating on individual origins and you're not grabbing a lot of that stuff, because it's once you start grabbing stuff, it's very easy to make things deform. Also try out the rig, because it's got a lot of try out Vyxated rigs, because it's got a lot of those like limitations built in, so you don't get too creepy with it. It's still very natural. AJ Benson asks, can we go over multiple Sims in the same scene? Poses, absolutely. Let's bring another Sim in, okay? So let's bring back Alejandro, and we're gonna need to have a rig for him, okay? So I'm just gonna duplicate these, make sure they're both visible. And make sure that all of this is visible, because you need both. Should be able to duplicate these here, but so if I hide this, sign him, there we go. If I bring this back, bring the pose mode for this, it's gonna move both of them. No, there we go. It's a little tricky, but it is possible to do it in the same file without having to re-import it. So you just basically just duplicate it, make sure they're both duplicated, make sure he's assigned to the new one. You can rename it. You still should be able to rename it. That wasn't what was causing an issue. I don't know what that was. Just make sure they're named Rig and Rig Plus, otherwise the controls won't work. Not the controls, but you know, they're like, this won't work. So now I can bring them both up. And just make sure, again, you're not moving the object off of the origin. So this, if I Alt G, it's still in the origin. You never want to move the rig off the origin. You want to move it in pose mode, not in object mode. So now if I wanted to do a 2-sim scene, I can move him around like that. Then actually I can probably, let me show you one that I did with 2 Sims as well. So this is like kind of a bunch of animations I made with 2 Sims using this rig. And it's so you can see that they're still in the origin, but they are moving around. And I found that it's when you're animating, I don't like to move the roots, because you'll get a lot of weird side effects if you're animating the root. So yeah, just kind of stick them and then move them with other stuff. Okay, Can this tool... Yes. Cool. Yes, it can be multiple Sims in one scene. Anyway, that is that. And so today we went over making poses with the default rig and making it with Vyxated's new rig, which I highly recommend. Go take that, download that. I press the link again. But also it's really good to learn something the hard way. I know it sucks, but trying something the hard way first is really helpful. Also, I'm gonna link to the stock that I showed at the beginning because it's just really great a reference, and also always that you're doing it yourself is always gonna be the best reference. Yeah, it's just hard to learn. It's easier to, it's good to learn the hard way first. Try it with the default rig, because if something happens and you're not able to use the really nice Ferrari rig, the Vyxated rig, you don't want to be stuck waiting in open water. So, but it's good to learn both ways. I hope you learned something. Thank you for joining me. There's like tons of ways to actually, once you get those poses in the game, there's tons of ways to actually pose the Sims. And like if you use Wicked Whims, if you use Wonderful Whims, there's a great pose player that comes with that for some reason, because Wicked Whims has like the best cheats for some reason. And actually Azura on Tumblr has a really great resource that talks about when you actually get poses in the game, how to move Sims around and stuff. Let me actually give you that as well. It's extremely comprehensive, and I definitely recommend giving it a read. She goes into using Pose Player, using Wicked Whims, Tool, using dressers from MC Command Center, Fashion Authority. A lot of really, really fun stuff once you actually get those poses in the game. You can do a lot of fun stuff with Wicked Whims dresser. I don't know if Wonderful Whims has a dresser, but Wicked Whims has like a dresser, and you can like take shoes off while they're posed. So if it's like you're on the bed and you're like, take your shoes off, you animals. You can do that. It's really easy. And then like once they come out of the pose, they like will keep the changes you made. So like maybe you have a Sim with a pose accessory in like one outfit, but you want to take the pose accessory off, but you don't want to go into cast or make like two outfits. You can just have them like undress it like a hand, like wherever. Like I had like a Sim holding a mug, and the mug was a hat, so I could tell them to take the hat off, and then they don't have a mug anymore, and I could keep moving on with my life and they don't even have to unpose. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. But yeah, she kind of goes over it all in this Tumblr post, so I recommend. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I will work on getting this up on YouTube for later reference and pausing, and I hope the custom generated captions, closed captioning, got it there in the end. I hope the closed captioning worked out and was good and helpful, and hope the screencast keys were good and helpful and everything was clear. But yeah, if you guys make some poses, tag me. I want to see them. It'll be fun. Just remember, make stuff for fun. Yeah, just because you learn a skill, you don't have to paywall it immediately. Sims community. And just like go out, have fun, make mistakes. I'm not the final authority. Everyone does everything different. My disclaimer from the beginning still applies. But I hope you learned something good. All right, that's me. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week, hopefully. Bye.